Booksmith, we're always happy and very humbled to host a launch event, especially for a debut book. And tonight we celebrate Oakland's own Melissa Valentine and her first book, The Names of All the Flowers. Joining her is your favorite poet and mine, Tongo Eisen-Martin. I know we're in for a double treat tonight, so thank you for joining us. The Names of All the Flowers is a memoir about growing up in Oakland and the loss of Melissa's older brother, who was murdered at the age of 19. He was a victim of gun violence, but of far more than that. The book connects this deeply personal loss to the systems that are responsible for it, and is a call to action to stop the endless violence against communities of color in the United States. Alicia Garza, the co-founder of Black Lives Matter, called The Names of All the Flowers poignant, painful, and gorgeous, saying Melissa bravely explores what faces Black boys and men through the eyes of a Black woman, sister, daughter, and member of a family whose lives are altered forever, time and time again. The Names of All the Flowers encourages us to be brave too, brave enough to imagine a world that loves Black people in all of our complexities, which is to say this book is crucial. Here with Melissa tonight is poet, movement worker, and educator Tongo Eisen-Martin. I might also add personal hero. Originally from San Francisco, his latest curriculum on extrajudicial killing of Black people, We Charge Genocide Again, has been used as an educational and organizing tool throughout the country. His book, titled Someone's Dead Already, was nominated for a California Book Award. His latest book, Heaven is All Goodbyes, was published by the City Lights Pocket Poet Series, was shortlisted for the Griffin Poetry Prize, and won a California Book Award and an American Book Award. Tongo, thank you for being here. Melissa Valentine is a writer from Oakland, California. She earned her BA from Sarah Lawrence College and her MFA in creative writing from Mills College. She's been a fellow at the San Francisco Writers Grotto, and her work has appeared in Jezebel, Guernica, Apogee Journal, and others. Her writing has received honorable mention from Glimmer Train and the Ardella Mills Non-fiction Award. She currently lives in Brooklyn, New York. Melissa, congratulations on your book. I just want to say a quick note to those of you who don't have the book yet. It just came out today, so you have an excuse. But I want to encourage you to help support Melissa by ordering the book tonight, this week. Early orders really do determine the trajectory of a book and can help pave the way for an author, especially one who's just starting out. I'll drop the link in the comments. Of course, you don't have to get it from Booksmith. Do support an independent bookstore, though. I will say, though, if you do buy the book from Booksmith, we're holding a raffle, and we'll enter you into the raffle for a free copy of Thea Matthews' new book of poems, Unearth the Flowers. If you buy 2 copies, we'll enter you in twice, just saying. That's it for me. Melissa, Tongo, I'll turn it over to you guys. Melissa, congratulations. Thank you.
So much, Evan.
Right on.
Thank you all so much for being here. First of all, can I just say, all of your faces, I'm seeing so many people from so many different walks of life, and it's so beautiful to see you all on 2 screens. But yeah, it's a weird time to launch a book, but it's actually very special because I don't think we'd all be able to be here together if not for this really strange time. So thanks all for being here. I really appreciate you all. Tongo, do you want to start off, or should I just jump into a quick reading?
Yeah, just let's dive in, man. Let's hear some. let's hear some.
Okay, cool. All right, cool. So I've selected a passage from a later part of the book. Let's see, where is it? And just to provide a little bit of context, because we haven't gotten into conversation yet, but I think you all know like the gist of the book. And so my brother was murdered when I was 16. He was 19. And can everyone hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay, cool, because I've got the AC on. So yeah, this passage that I'm going to read jumps into a scene where I am sitting with my brother in his room, where I often do as a teenager, because I'm the sibling that he lets in as he's sort of progressing in his life through, you know, different crimes, really. He was looking for himself, I think, on the streets and, you know, trying to become a Black man and in his own process and search for like survival. He got into crime, and so he let me in to see a lot of what he was doing, and we were just kids, but the scene I'm going to start with is at this point I've just learned that my brother, whose name is Junior, that's his nickname, his name is actually Chris Jr. I just learned that he's selling crack, and so I'm really alarmed by that. So that's where we'll start. So I'll just jump in. Walking through the threshold to my family home gets harder and harder. The outside and the inside of my life grow more and more distant from one another. I've begun to stand taller. I've begun to wear my fear as apathy. Junior is home less and less, and I'm lonelier than I know how to recognize. Dad has punished me for staying out late by tossing the contents of my drawers onto the neighbor's roof. Thank God the gun wasn't there when he did it. Across the street are all my clothes mixed with overgrown ivy, thrown up there just like trash. When I enter the house, I am thankful to hear Sibo playing from Junior's room. I'm surprised he's home, and I go straight to his room and knock. I wonder what new arrangement he has with Mom and Dad. Miraculously, Mom is sleeping over the bass pounding right next to her bedroom. He turns the music down. What? It's me. I hear some things shuffling around, and he finally opens the door for me. Dad has taken the lock off the door, so he can't hide whatever it is he's doing when he's in there. But he has figured out a way to keep the door closed. I can see his finger fiddling with a metal clasp, and the door opens. He seems to be in good spirits. I take a seat on his bed, and he closes the door behind me, turns the music back on. Mom's sleeping, turn it down, I say. Gosh. He turns it down a bit. I don't like Sibo. He loves him. Whenever he's home, he's on repeat. Thank God you're home, I say. Why? What's up? Junior gives me his attention, smiling. He smiles more since he's gotten gold teeth. I'm going crazy living here. I put my head in my hands and start to rub my eyes, take a deep breath, and compose myself. I'm all alone here. It's just me and Angelica. You're never home. Daddy threw all my clothes on Mr. Kramer's roof. Junior starts to laugh. What the fuck? Don't laugh. I'm so fucking pissed. I can't even go up there. It makes me so mad, and I have nothing to wear. He continues to laugh in his special gap-toothed way, wind vibrating through his teeth. He holds his belly. Are you done? I ask. That's hella funny. I'm sorry. Stay in here and keep me company. I relax onto the bed, letting myself plop back and listen to the music. This dude is fake, I say. Junior shoots me a look. What are you talking about? He dismisses me and gets on his knees to get something from under his bed. You really think this guy has murdered all these people? That's all he talks about. It's so boring. He probably hasn't killed anyone. And what the fuck does 187 even mean? It's police code for homicide, he says. How do you know that? He shrugs, focused on his activity. He brings out one of our dinner plates, which is covered in crack. Then he pulls out sheets of plastic and puts tiny portions of crack into them, twisting them into micro baggies that look like the firecrackers kids throw into the street and pop like fireworks. Want to help me? No, I shout. I wish you wouldn't do that. What do you think is going to happen to you? Nothing's going to happen to me. What if the police catch you? They won't. First of all, they can't. All you got to do is swallow it and run. Swallow it? I ask, horrified. Junior, I admonish him. Have you smoked crack? Do you smoke crack? He starts to laugh at me. Man, he laughs. Hell no, I don't smoke crack. Well, don't swallow it, ever. He laughs again. He's almost done making the tiny bags, and now the plate is empty with just a powdering of the drug left on the plate. I look at it as if it's diseased. What are you going to do with that? I ask, backing away from it. Do something with it, I command. Get rid of it. He finds my concern amusing and laughs again. He brings the plate up to his face, sticks his tongue out, and licks the plate clean. He got what he wanted, a reaction out of me. Junior, I scream. Quiet, he shouts back and brings the plate down. Don't trip. Don't trip? You just did crack. Melissa, he looks at me sternly. I'm fine. He smiles. He is so many things. He already has so many names. Crackhead and drug addict cannot be added to the list. I worry. I have never seen him bag up crack before. I didn't know for sure he sold crack, but now I know. He showed me crack, like he showed me a gun, like he showed me cash, like he showed me weed and stolen cars and gifts and lunches and dinners and clothing and funerals. He wants me to see. I want him to be my brother. I don't want him to have the other names. I don't want him to be of the other places. I want him to be of this house, of this street, with our names outside, of this home, of this family, not the others he's found or the ones he still looks for. I act cool. Crack, no big deal. Weed, I'll smoke it with you. I'm so damn cool. Gun, I'll hold it for you. I will bear witness to who you are in your masks so I can be there when you return. I must be willing to see it all if I'm to see you. What would happen if you didn't wear those other names? Who would you be? I sit on your bed. I open windows, doors, accept gifts, waiting for you to arrive, to return. I am complicit again. Now it is crack I'm okay with. The man you made dance, the other men. The time I paged you and you called me back and I told you my bike had been stolen because you're my big brother and because I knew you'd know what to do. You found it instantly and I thought you were magic. But it was because you knew the crack addict who likely stole it. You knew where they waited to buy more crack. You saw the things they had. My bike, other people's bikes, dots connect, and the street, once again that abstract and terrible place, becomes just that much more filled in. And then I see your smile, the crack plate before us. I want so much for us to be brother and sister. Not a thug and his sister, a drug dealer and his sister, a monster and his sister. So I sit with you on this bed and I say nothing, and I believe you when you say, they can't catch me, they won't catch me, I'll be fine. SIBO echoes around us, the violent and doom-filled lyrics, 187s, and us on a bed, a nice bed, in a house, a big house, on a street, a nice street. So far from that street, it makes no sense. The words envelop us as we are, boy and girl, sister and brother, son and daughter, in that space without labels. When I can't hear the soundtrack, when I shut out the crack, the guns, the murders, the failing, the chaos, we just are. We are not good or bad. No walls nor shields have been built around us. And we have no names because here we are far too brilliant, far too bright for labels. In this space, we are transcendent. Here, we bear the names of all the flowers. In this space, we are free to bloom, to be big, fragrant, joyful, radiant. It is in this place where I wait for you. You are not a thug or a delinquent or a monster. I am not stupid, a whore, or a fuck up. This is the place I like to see us, the space I want to make for us. What are you about to do, I ask. Our eyes meet for a moment. I'm about to go out, he says, almost apologetically. Gotta make this money. I don't plead this time. I don't beg. I'm so tired. The crack brings a new level of exhaustion over me, a new level of numb. It is all I can do to lift myself from his bed, to leave this room, and to drag myself to my own. He grabs his towel hanging over the closet door and heads to the door, and we walk upstairs together. Don't use all my conditioner, I say. He smiles at me. I'll get you some more, he winks. From my room, I can hear the shower running. When he's finished, I smell the flowers from his hair. He showers and dresses like a man going off to work at an office. But it is night, and his office is the street. He taps my closed bedroom door as a hello or a goodbye, as he often does before he heads back downstairs to dress and go off to work. Bye, I yell from behind the door. Junior doesn't come home, and he doesn't come home, and he doesn't come home, and he doesn't come home. Every time the phone rings, there is terror in our hearts. We all know what happens to Black boys on the street. We know what happens to Black boys. This knowing is felt in the way we move around the house, in the way we move, in the way we sleep, in the way we breathe, in the way we speak. It is felt when I walk through the door of this house. It is felt most when the phone rings. Mom is the only one brave enough to say it out loud. I'm just waiting for the call, she says, and she says it often now. We all know what call she means. The phone rings one day, and there's news. Mom grabs her heart. Junior is in jail. She exhales. He's alive. He's alive. My boy is alive. Thank you.
I'm sure we could hear some more, but I'll get some questions going. First, it's just, this is like just such a really, and I don't know what kind of credit you want to take, but or if you want to, but it's really one of the most heroic books that I've read, in that it really is almost like you offering your life and the life of your family as almost a spiritual journey for us all to take. And I went, a friend of mine, hit me and was like, "How is it? How is it?" And I was like, it's like if Toni Morrison was your little sister or something, and was right there in the trenches with you, writing along the way or remembering along the way. And I say that because among you, just kind of like your brilliant insights and knack almost for subtext. There's that kind of that convergence of spirit there as well, with just like imagination and spirit just are dancing. How do you is this how in your day in, day out, is this how you experience reality? How does this what is it like living in your head with these type of gifts?
Talking spirits all the time. Yeah, I mean, I'm a very spiritual person, so that makes sense that the book is that way. And it makes sense too, I think, that I love poetry so much and I love poets so much, because there's just that like essence that I want to get across on the page. And I think maybe that's something that I do. I'm not a poet. I don't write poetry, but I do I feel like have this ability to like speak in essence, and so that is definitely what I try to do on the page. That makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. The and this kind of almost showing just kind of like the unfortunate march that a lot of us are just almost conveyor belting towards. Your description of that process of the transformation of your brother and the transformation of your family, the transformation of Oakland is all being told. When you look at like in these times, a moment like this, like what do you think is being scaffolded now, like socially?
So many things. I mean, I think this very system that I'm talking about in my book is very much still alive. Mass incarceration is still very much alive. But I think at this moment, there is some awareness being had, like we're having as a country a moment of awareness. And I don't know if that's going to be a trend, or I don't know if it's just going to be a moment in time. I do hope it's more of like a permanent awakening. But yeah, no, these systems are very much still in place. The school to prison pipeline is what I'm talking about in my book. And that's the way, I mean, certainly when I was 16 years old and this happened to me, I wasn't like, yep, school to prison pipeline, but it was as I grieved and as I learned and became a political person and started to learn my history and ask why, like, why did this happen? Why does this happen so often? Why in my high school are all these kids getting shot? Like this is not, happens at such a high rate that it's like, you have to ask yourself, like, this is not like an accident, there's a system in place that does propel this along and funnels these kids into prisons and really doesn't care about them at all. So I think that's happening right now. I don't think very much has changed. But I do think right now we're at a really interesting point where people are interested in learning about these systems and learning why and asking more questions. White people, especially, people who benefit from the system and have not been very aware. So I think it's a beautiful moment. But yeah, no, I don't think, since this book took place in the 90s, I don't think that much has changed, sadly. Yeah.
Sure. You know, another thing that struck me was just your just almost like amazing ability to handle so much high energy, so much pain, intensity, excitement, like all these really amplified states, but have a handle of them through the lens of like your younger, you know, to have these insights as a child. Is that like how did you do that? Like, was this the whole? Is this like the whole time you've kind of just had that grasp or that ability, or is there some kind of like lens within the lens? Like, is there, you know, a tool you use with the lens or something to kind of like excavate all that insight out of all that energy that's in the book?
Definitely, I think both. I think it's certainly like a tool of it's a craft, you know. And I wrote this book as an adult. I didn't write this book as a 7-year-old, which is where the book starts. You know, a 7-year-old can't write a book. So of course, like I've developed and I've had all these insights as I've grown up, and those are all in the book, but I've crafted the narrative to be from a child's perspective. So I'm putting all that in and making it hopefully believable as a child's perspective. So that is true. That's craft. That was intentional. And I really wanted this book to read like a novel. I had hoped to be a novelist when I started writing. That didn't happen. It hasn't happened yet. But that's sort of like, those are the craft things that I'm interested in doing in storytelling, and just like creating, you know, creating energy and creating dynamic scenes and wanting people to turn pages. Like that is something that I'm interested in doing. And then, what was the first part of your question? Now I'm blanking on it.
I'm just sitting here like, how did you do all of this? Basically, that's the subtitle of the album. But again, just like I just think it's, you know, or should I say like, so the way the book is set up, you let us know out the gates, like my brother's gonna be dead by the end of this book, right? And so then it's just like it's this countdown, and I'm, you know, and me, it just like, it affects me so much because it's almost like now, you know, I'm almost reliving my countdowns and the parallel universes in which I was down that stroll, you know what I mean? But it's like what's interesting is it's held together by so much just like brilliant, almost like selfless insight, and teaching so much about just, just human psyche, really, you know. So I was just like, you know, I was like, how? You know?
That brings me back to the first part of your question. Now I'm remembering, is like, how does that happen, and how did you have that insight? And I think it has something to do with, I mean, I come from a really big family with, you know, six of us kids, and I was the youngest for a long time. And you come into this family and you're like, who are these people? You sort of like become an observer, you know, and that's who I was for like a lot of my childhood. I think I was spending a lot of time observing, like, what is happening and why? Why does he act like that? Why is this happening? Oh, okay, she's like got this other family here going on in Alabama. Okay, so she's got this stuff and he's got this stuff, and I'm sort of just like figuring out who my family is. And I found them to be so interesting and fascinating as people. And even before this event happened, and before my brother died, I always thought that I wanted to write about my family because they were actually very fascinating to me. So I think it has something to do with like position in your family. Like I was just born into the, you know, as the last child, as the second to last child. I'm sorry, Angelica. Yeah, I was an observer.
See, I'm the oldest, man, so I'm just a goofball, you know, blundering along.
And then we learn from you.
What do you see as like, what do you want the life of this book to be? You know, what do you want the journey of this book to be, or what do you see or intuit or, you know, want?
Well, I mean, I think it's like infused with my intention when I wrote it, and which was I'm in a lot of pain, and I've suffered a lot, and it's kind of a silent suffering because I can hold it together pretty well, and no one knows what's happening, no one knows my story, and I know that I'm not alone, and so that's part of the journey and the hope for this book is that. People who have gone through the same thing that I went through, who have experienced that sort of grief in their lives, who have lost someone, who have experienced trauma. I hope that they will feel less alone and feel seen. But part of it too, like infused in the pages is like my healing journey. This book healed me in so many ways. So interesting because I've been talking to my family more and more about this book as it got closer to publication, and I talked to my sisters some of them are here, and they said like I've been really afraid to read this book. I don't think I can handle it, and I felt like wow, that's so fascinating because I've been with this book for 7 years, and I have healed so much in that time, and it's actually been a huge gift to me. And so it's a gift that I want to give back to people, you know, my family, definitely, but everyone else too. It's like, here is like my own healing journey and like understanding and unpacking my family, understanding and unpacking and unlayering like some of these systems of oppression and how they affect us so personally in our very intimate lives and in our minds. It's so deep. So that, yeah, it's all healing. It's all in there. It's a big message.
For sure. And if I may be so bold, there's actually there's this paragraph that I would like to read if it's all good.
Yeah.
It goes with just with what you were just saying right now, which I think is just like crucial for people to understand. So. We're actually we're at the funeral now, and so people are coming up to you and they say, quote, "Hey, we're so sorry. Tell me you will get through this. Tell me you will survive." And in the seconds between death, when a thought enters, I think, I don't want to survive. Then, if this is something to be survived, I don't want to survive. If this is something to get through, I don't want to make it to the other side. That thing in me that's changed wants to let itself be seen, wants to let itself be changed by the part of this death that is universal, that is more personal, even than family. The part of this tragedy that can be described as an epidemic. The part of this tragedy that is so old it has been written in books. The part of this death that is all of ours. Every single person walking into this chapel is part of it. I haven't been spared, and I won't survive. None of us will. You, and you, you're all as dead as me, and you're all in as much danger. Because as long as we are dying in the streets like animals, each of us is a little bit dead, each of us in danger. The anger and the secret and the death and the love all mixed together now. They come in swarms. Then a new thought enters. God, how loved he was. How many different kinds of people loved him. And I sit back outside of myself and watch in awe. Like, man, that one right there almost sent me to the other side of the revolution. Like just a conclusion, man. Like to me, like that's just a guiding thought. A guiding understanding that we're all going to have to incorporate in any kind of movement process, any kind of healing process to come to dance with that idea, So I really just wanted to thank you for that. You know what I mean?
Reading it sounds so different coming out of someone else's mouth, and I think that's part of this experience of letting this book out into the world is people are going to experience it, and I felt that when you read that. I was like, whoa, did I write that? That's yeah, there's a lot in there.
I guess should we open up questions from the audience?
Yeah.
I don't know how the questions are supposed to be facilitated.
Yeah, sure. I can read out the first question. It comes from Angelica Valentine. She's wondering, Melissa, how has your vision for the book changed since you started 7 years ago?
Well, it's changed. It's hard to answer that question because it was never a straight line, you know? It started as like, I need to write something. I need this book. I just needed it. And I didn't know what would happen with it. I didn't know what I was doing. And so I didn't really have much of a vision at first. I was just like, I need to get this out. I need to like write this thing. And like I said, I wanted to write a novel. That wasn't working out. It was like sort of this story, but in a novel, and felt very untrue. And then later down the publication process, you start to get a lot of different hands in your book and a lot of different opinions. And, you know, people reject it because they're like, oh, I didn't like this, or this didn't resonate with me. And if you did this differently, then we would consider it, you know, and you go through that for like years, right? That's part of the process. You know, then you get an agent, and then they have a vision, and then you get a publisher and they have yet another vision. And so the vision for this book, I feel like just has evolved so much. But the original, I guess the very original intention, which was, this is a book about like healing for me, for myself. And within that, there's going to be so many different layers. That vision has never changed.
So we have another question. This one comes from Wendy. Wendy is wondering, Melissa, when you're writing about such personal family dynamics and identities, how do you navigate not censoring yourself, knowing that your family will read it and have a reaction?
You don't let them read it for a really long time so that you can basically keep it really safe. And that's what I did. And I know my parents are here and they experienced that. And I'm sure that was probably really hard for them. But I really had to keep it safe. I had to keep it protected because it was mine. It was my experience. And I really didn't want anyone telling me that that wasn't true or that I couldn't say it. So I actually, when I shared my galley with my parents, it was at a point in the process when I really couldn't make any changes. So I mean, I did that on purpose, and it took a lot of, like, I was really scared to do it, but now I feel like I've been set free. Like, they're here, my parents are here, and they still love me. It was okay, you know, it really was okay in the end. And so I feel like when you're telling your truth, you just have to believe that. Like, one thing I told myself through the entire process is like, they're going to be hurt, but they're going to be more proud of me than they are hurt. And then I just didn't show it to them for a really long time. So that was my special trick. Sorry, Mom and Dad.
Thank you. And I should just say, if you have questions, please just drop them in the chat, and we'll ask them out. This next one comes from Ardella, who's wondering if you can talk a little bit about the process of completing the book.
Yeah, that's another question. It's like, this book has really not been linear. I don't think any writing of any book is a linear process, and like the idea of finishing it happens several times throughout the process. So I thought I was done like 4 years ago. And probably before that, I thought I was done. And then you show it to someone and they're like, no, you're not done. This is like, you know, so yeah, the process of finishing it, like, is it done? I think at this point it's done. So yeah, it's definitely, you know, a windy road.
Thank you. Yeah, a couple questions that are similar. I'm going to kind of put them together. They're from Cole and Matthew. Cole's wanting to know who your literary influences are, and Matthew's wondering if there are any particular quotes, books, poems, or albums that you turn to consistently through the process of writing this book specifically.
Mm. Yeah. So influences, definitely. I was influenced by everything that I was reading when I was reading it. And I actually told this to my partner the other day. I was like, the experience of writing a book is so strange because literally every time you sit down to write, you're a different person than you were the last time you sat down to write. And that different person is influenced by what you're reading, who you're talking to that day, what your mood is, and that all comes out on the page. It's like this kind of magical process and art form. But while I was reading this book, I was reading so many people. Writing this book, I was reading so many people, including James Baldwin, including Jesmyn Ward, who I was sort of looking for mentors in my writing process. I wanted teachers, and I wanted people who had sort of written courageous books. I wanted to feel courageous. I wanted to feel brave. And so I was looking for people who had done hard things in their writing and reading them. I also read I was inspired by Zora Neale Hurston, Dust Tracks on a Road, which is her all of her books are very Southern, but it was her autobiography of living in the South and growing up in the South. And I knew that to write my story, I was going to need to write about the South and my experience there. Let's see, who else? Yeah, those are some the main ones that I can think of anyway. And then in terms of quotes and being inspired by poems and things like that, I'm so bad at remembering things off the top of my head. But again, it was like almost like this process of self-help. I was like, I need mentors and I need teachers. And so I was even reading spiritual books. I'm an editor in my career and in my day job, and I have always edited spiritual books. And so I've always had access to these kinds of like teachers and different like spiritual philosophies. And so I look to them. Anne Lamott, is someone who's really inspiring because she writes a lot about the bravery required in writing, and sort of had this one great quote that was like, I forget like word for word, but if they wanted you to say nice things about you, they should have been nicer to you. I'm totally butchering it, but that was sort of like gave me permission to like speak my truth, but like, yeah, I can say what I have to say, and that's their problem. So I kind of needed that boldness to be able to write this book. So
beautiful, thank you. The next question comes from Taryn, and who's wanting to know, Melissa, how has the healing process changed for you since you finished the book?
Well, I think I'm more open. I think part of my trauma when I first started out was feeling a lot of shame. And that's a huge thing for me. And this healing process is just letting go of shame, where it's like, growing up, when you read the book, you'll see what I mean. It's like there was just a lot of shame in our family and in the way that we lived, and you carry that throughout your life. And then when my brother was murdered and joining the workforce and going to college and being so depressed and feeling like I couldn't relate, and nobody at this like fancy white school is gonna know like my experience, like and feeling really alone in that, but also just really ashamed of my story. And so writing it, sharing it gradually over the years, you start to just feel like you can just own your story, and so that's really, I would say that's how the healing process has changed, is I'm not ashamed of my life.
The next question is from Tracy. Tracy says, Melissa, your first reading spoke to me as your witness to the unfolding loss. There's a helplessness there alongside the witness. And Tracy wants to know, are we helpless in this deep divide, which is personal and societal?
No, I don't think so. I don't feel helpless, and I didn't feel helpless as like I know that being an observer is sort of like a passive position, but I'm a child, like it's from a child's perspective. And so as a child, you don't have very much power, you know, and that comes through, I think. But it's not a passivity. It's more like, yeah, it's more just I'm a child and I'm observing it in my eyes. And this is also part of the craft, you know, and the way I decided to tell the story is that I'm letting my eyes show you, like from my body, like what's happening in my world. And so I'm just describing a lot of things. But are we helpless? I don't know. I mean, it depends how you see that and how you want to, like how you feel powerful. And for me, the way I feel powerful is when like I'm taking care of myself. And I found a lot of healing and power in this idea of self-care and just like loving on myself and taking like deep care of myself and going back to be like, you know, maybe I didn't have like, my childhood was whatever it was, you know, but I'm gonna like really deeply take care of myself. I'm gonna deeply love myself. And so I feel like that's political too. I'm not supposed to love myself. And so that is a resistance in itself. And so yeah, no, I'm not helpless. None of us are helpless.
For sure. And I just want to, I got a couple more questions coming in. I just want to say that act of caring for yourself gives us all power. You know, so many people are going to take power from this book that you have written. And I personally just want to thank you for doing that, because I know it must have been difficult. If you have a question, please ask away at any point. We've got a new one coming from Florencia. Florencia is wanting to know what was the process like of digging up so many memories and working them into a cohesive narrative. Also, did you choose to let your remembrance be totally subjective, or did you double check some events with other members of your family or childhood friends?
So let's see, that had a lot of questions in it. Digging up memories, that was hard. And I used myself first. So I didn't seek the outside when I was writing the first drafts of this book. And my family will tell you, like, when they did read drafts, the first thing they would say was like, "Oh, you got that wrong. That's not what I said. That didn't happen like that." And that wasn't the point, you know? And so that's why I decided to just go off of my own memories. And at the very end, I did fact check. And so I had to sit down with my parents and say, like, okay, when Junior was when he first got into juvenile hall, like what year was that? And like what had happened? And tell me more about that, because I was seeing from my child self and I didn't know all of the context of what was happening and why. So I did have to get some details. But yeah, for the most part, I did trust my own memories. And so this book is my memory. And sometimes they're mixed up, you know, but it's the truth, even though they might be a little bit mixed up sometimes. And I was okay with that. And then the remembrance, sorry, I'm reading this question. I think that was the whole question. Oh, how was the digging up, how to work it into a cohesive narrative? Well, did I mention it took 7 years to write this book? So it took a long time, and I went to therapy. Yeah, all of those things. Like I grew up writing this book. It's like, I'm only 36, so it's 7 years is a big part of my life, you know? And you do a lot of growing and healing, and this book saw me through all of that. So, and then there's that, and then there's the craft, and there's my training as a writer. And so you're mixing all these things together, and you have to be a professional at the end of the day. It's like, I'm writing a book and I'm writing a story, and I want it to be, I want you to want to continue to read. I want to tell the truth. And I also want it to be like an entertaining book. I want you to want to turn the page. So yeah, it's a combination of craft and therapy.
We got a question from Daphne. Daphne's wondering, how would you describe your sphere in life? What are your boundaries between the world you've created for yourself and the external?
Whoa. Can you say that again?
Sure. How would you describe your sphere in life? What are your boundaries between the world you've created for yourself and the external?
Hard. That's a hard one. And I'm still learning that one. A lot of my coworkers are here, for example, and like my colleagues are here. And so that's been a part of my life that has been really separate. Two very separate parts of me is my writer life and my professional life. And so right now at this very moment, we're blending them. And I think it's a beautiful thing, but it has been something that I've struggled with actually. And just being like, I'm a writer. Oh, you're writing a book? Oh yeah. Like, and now I'm just like, okay, everybody come to my book launch. You're going to read the book. Let's just talk about it. It's fine. So yeah, it's been, I think many of us, as Black people too, in corporate settings, like we kind of compartmentalize our lives for our safety and for, it's what we learn to do and how we learn to survive. And so that's a real thing. But I think part of that healing process that I talked about earlier and letting go of shame, it's like, I think the older I get, I'm just like, here I am, here I am, colleagues, here I am, family, here I am, world, this is just who I am. So I'm getting better at it, Daphne. integrating the worlds.
Behold, here I am. That's all the questions I've got. Maybe we'll give a final call if anybody has a last question you'd like to ask. Melissa, now's your chance. I wanna take the opportunity to thank Tongo for being here tonight and for setting us up. Thank you, Tongo.
Thank you, Tongo. Thank you, everyone, for coming out to your living rooms and tuning in. It's been really wonderful. This is like a really big moment for me. It's a moment I've been dreaming about and waiting for a long time, and it felt surreal, and now it feels real. So thank you for helping make it real for me. And asking such great questions. And thanks, Evan, for organizing this, and to Booksmith.
Yeah, we're honored. It's a pleasure, Melissa. It looks like we have a question from Miria. It's coming in shortly. You do have time, Miria. Meanwhile, I'll let everybody send some praise into the chat room. Show some love, y'all. First step is showing love. The main step is getting the book and helping boost. Okay. We got a thesis question. Let me parse it real quick. Okay. Here we go. This is from Miria. I can only speak to the passage you read. It's so remarkable in how full and how much indirect information it contains. What struck me was how you captured the younger sister's point of view, that universal feeling of a younger sister loving and admiring and looking up to her big brother, but then also fully aware that he's flawed and making bad decisions. You also include a bit of information about your father's feelings toward you and his behavior of throwing your things on the roof that offered depth. It helped to level the playing field in some way with your brother and his behavior, or indicate to the reader that you felt you had something in common with your brother, that you were maybe aligned in feeling misunderstood by your father, or feeling judged by him, or that you were causing him worry. Was it a struggle to be honest to your memory while still being true to your misgivings about your brother? Did you feel you needed to soften your perspective or to make it more explicit?
Well, the answer is no to both questions. I don't know. I didn't really hold back, I guess. And I mean, I was comfortable. I was really comfortable. And I'll say I really embraced my family's complexities and my character's complexities. And so I really was totally okay with them being flawed. And it was very, very important to me to balance it out with making sure that the reader knows that I love them and that they love us and we love each other, and we show love in different ways. And especially when we have trauma, we show love in different ways. And so I really tried hard to make sure that that was balanced.
Beautiful. I think that's a good place to end it. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you so much. Oh, are you?
For joining in tonight.
Thank you all so much for being here and for supporting Melissa and also for supporting independent bookstores and presses. Support feminist press. Hope we can all meet and celebrate in person in the nearest future. But until then, I hope to see your faces here. Future events at booksmith.com. Everybody have a wonderful night and take care of yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you.